So my name is Steven. I'm in my third year of computer science, and this summer I'll be interning at Meta.
Hi, my name is Kelly. I'm in my last semester. I'm studying computer science and doing a minor in data science, and I will be starting as a data analyst in the fall at Capital One in Toronto.
Hey everyone, my name is Donald. I'm currently in my third year doing a combined major in sciences, mainly focusing on computer science, and I'm currently a DevOps engineering intern at Boeing.
So after first year, I had an internship at a company named Clio, which was where we made legal software. So that was an 8-month internship where I worked from May to December. And my second internship was at a company named Chime, which was after my second year, which was during the summer in San Francisco.
I got my first real job. It was a work learn position, so I was working as an informatics developer at UBC. So that was just 7 months, I think, and then co-op at Johnson & Johnson. So as a business IT analyst, that was 8 months, and then I came back to school, did another work learn, which was 8 months as a synthetic data researcher for a lab at UBC. And then last summer, I was at Amazon as a business intelligence engineer.
I'm actually not in the science co-op program, so yeah, I just kind of found it through my own.
Yeah, I was in the co-op program, but I did actually pull out halfway through. But I did 8 months of one internship, and then 3 months for my last internship, and also did 2 work learn positions throughout my degree.
I found it myself. I think I found most job postings through LinkedIn. With LinkedIn, you can set up alerts and also GitHub. If you search up summer 2025 internships, the first thing that should pop up is this GitHub repository with a list of summer internships. Simplify also has a list of internships available for the summer or even fall.
Yeah, I think a lot of people ask me oh, do you think co-op is worth it? I feel like for your first internship, co-op can really help out a lot, especially because you don't have any other experience. But I don't think you should let kind of the jobs in the co-op board define the jobs that you can get. There's a lot of jobs that you can find on your own just looking outside. So I don't think you should be kind of bounded by that.
The co-op office will kill me for saying this, but not really. Not a lot of companies actually require you to be in co-op, but being in co-op helps if you need to maintain things like loans, if you're an international student, housing also, but the job quality is basically the same. A lot of them linked to external postings, so not that big a difference.
Probably the free lunches. Was really good, but yeah, I guess just being kind of in the Bay Area in San Francisco, it's really, the vibes are all tech and stuff like that, so that was really good. Just being kind of surrounded by people, meeting a lot of other interns as well from other companies, was really a great experience. And yeah, free food's great.
Ooh, I think the people. I think seeing everyone in office is definitely very fun because you can hang out with them during lunch breaks, and whenever you just want to take a break, you just go up to them and talk with them.
Try to apply as early as possible, honestly within the first few days of the posting, because then you're more likely to actually get seen by a hiring manager or HR.
I wish I knew that I should apply right away. Some companies, they stop looking at applications after a few hours or even a few days, have alerts on and just see all the new jobs on the day they came out and then apply to them the moment they come out.
Networking matters a lot. People always talk about what kind of projects have you done, what kind of previous experiences you've had, but both my first and second internships was all found through networking. Just reach out to companies that don't even have job postings available, trying to pick at them, trying to see what they need, I think is something I wish I knew. I think my number one advice about networking is that you need to be a lot more direct than you think, and people actually do like it when you're really direct about it. People don't really like it, especially recruiters, when you kind of beat around the bush. Everyone knows what you want to do. You're a student. They're recruiters. I think they know. Obviously, don't be too direct. I want an internship or anything like that. But just being okay, I'm really interested in XYZ about your company. I think being direct really helps. Don't waste people's time.
I did not do any networking to find my current internship, but I have done networking to land interviews at different companies, mainly small companies like startups. Try to reach out to someone after you have established that connection. I don't usually reach out to people specifically for a referral or anything like that unless I know them or have met them at an event or worked with them in a club before.
No, I don't know how to network. I never actually networked. I should probably work on that though.
Yeah, I think my one tip for this is I don't think cover letters are worth the time, especially for software engineer roles. I've heard stories where they do work out a bit, especially for smaller companies. But if you're applying for a bit of like bigger companies and things like that, they don't have the time to read cover letters. You don't have the time to write cover letters since you're sending out so many applications. So I probably wouldn't bother with it. But you know, maybe it is worth having like one template and just changing around a bit. But still, I think it is just a bit too much time consuming for the amount of applications.
For each recruiting cycle, basically, I only did one somewhat generic cover letter, and then you just used it for most of the applications. Like, especially if you're in like CS, stats, most of the time they don't actually read the cover letter, but just having it there is good, but no one actually really reads it.
I did not write cover letters. I think for applying to CS related jobs, just focus on your resume. Most companies don't have time to read a cover letter.
During my first year, I think I sent around probably less than like 50 applications because I knew that I couldn't really go for this bigger company, so I was focusing on like kind of smaller. And then my second year, I wanted to just apply everywhere, so I probably sent around like 200 to 300, just constantly on my phone, just sending out applications. For both my first and second year, I think I only had one interview for each of the companies that I was able to get an offer at. While looking for jobs for this summer, I think I sent around maybe like 100 or so at the leisure of like being able to like pick companies more. I had 3 interviews this time around, and then ended up getting an offer from Meta.
So for my first internship, I think before I got my first interview, I applied to about 20 to 30 jobs. I got less as I searched for like my second internship and also full-time, but there's also students, especially for your first, if you're doing like software, I know it's really competitive. You can apply up to like hundreds of jobs, so definitely don't be discouraged by the numbers.
For fall, I applied to over 100 companies. I only had one interview for fall, and that was Boeing.
Coffee is a really good solution. Did you know at Great Dane you can get an iced latte with 4 shots of espresso for only $7.70? Great deal. But honestly, also like just time management, like using like Google Calendar, a planner is really helpful. I actually thought it was kind of fun applying to jobs because I would do it while I watched Netflix, try to make it as enjoyable as possible, like by doing like fun things like that or like doing it with friends. Power through, like just know that it's only going to be a couple weeks of like pain and suffering, and you can relax afterwards.
It is a bit tough when like it is like interview season and stuff, but I think I did prioritize kind of that job hunt a lot more than like schoolwork, and I guess it kind of paid off.
Always make sure to be prepping for the interviews, even like, you know, when they come. So making sure you're practicing your behavioral, your technicals, because when an interview randomly, you know, comes and you get an offer, you want to make sure you are ready because you only have like 3 or 4 days to prep. So trying to cram all that in 3 or 4 days is really hard. So make sure just to always be practicing throughout the entire process. For technicals, definitely, first of all, like go online and see what you can find about the interview process because it looks a little different for each company and like the type of role you're applying for. So for a lot of technicals, like LeetCode's pretty common. So going online, looking for past questions for that company, and just practicing it out loud is really important because in your head you can probably solve it, but like when you do it out loud, it's definitely harder. And then also, I think it's really helpful to go on like YouTube and watch people do practice rounds, and then you can kind of see what they did good and try to incorporate that into your interview. And then for behavioral, just practicing, honestly, writing out your answers, kind of like structuring it so you have an idea of what you want to say, and then just doing a practice by like sitting in front of a laptop and then just saying it out loud. Recording yourself is really helpful just to get practice and getting familiar.
Just doing mocks in general is like a really good idea, even for both like behavioral and technical. You should be ready to sell yourself, the products you made, the experience you've had. I think behavioral, a lot of people kind of skim by it, but it's like a really important kind of factor in deciding whether or not they should hire you. As for technical, I think you should just keep coding, whether it's like LeetCode or not LeetCode. You should be able to code like smoothly, I guess.
For behavioral interviews, one tip I have is to ask your friends for a mock interview. Have them like search up a list of common behavioral questions and have them ask you that. You get more experience with speaking on the spot and thinking on the spot. Use the STAR method. It's basically a method for answering questions. So situation, task, action, result. Basically, when you answer a behavioral question, you should think about these 4 things to knock out. So when you're going over your answer, talk about the situation, talk about what you had to do, talk about the action you took, and then you talk about the end result. And I think preparation is very important, like looking at the values of these companies you're applying to, For example, like Amazon, they really value their leadership principles, and other companies may also have their own personal values that they look for.
I think for bigger companies like Meta and like Amazon and FANG level companies that you hear about, a lot of the interview format is standardized because they interview so many people. So it isn't really a surprise what they're going to ask. It is basically like leak code and stuff like that. And you can ask people online what kind of questions they've had. So I guess I was surprised for my first internship at Clio, they didn't really ask like a difficult technical question at all. I think they focus a lot more on character and stuff like that. So I think for a lot of these smaller mid-sized companies, they might be asking different things. They might value it a lot more than just, can you solve these 2 leak code questions? Because it is a lot less standardized and dependent on the interviewer.
For most interviews, they ask you a list of behavioral questions, and then at the end, they would go into some technical questions. One thing that really surprised me was the amount of theory that was involved. I expected more like leak code styled questions, but for some of the interviews that I have done, some of the questions were like, define this in Python, or like, how do you build the infrastructure for this type of project? So that kind of caught me off guard because I was expecting like a leak code level question.
I think for the most difficult part was just trying to understand like what they were going to ask you in the interview process, because at least for my role, I was a business intelligence engineer, so there's not that much like known about the interview process either. So you'd hear a little bit about like what kind of questions they'd ask, but it was hard to prep because you didn't know exactly. It's not like a software role where it's really common like what's going to be asked, like leak code questions, the behavioral, like you can find that online, but for my role specifically, it was harder to find out what to expect.
I think I was a bit lucky, but networking is definitely what helped me get my first job.
What set me apart from other applicants for getting the interview was definitely like the amount of extracurriculars I had on my resume and side projects. I was very involved in like UBC clubs, for example, like NW+. One of the clubs that I'm currently involved in, and we organize hackathons at UBC. I also had a lot of like full-stack web development projects on my resume. And then after the interview, what I did was I sent an email thanking all my interviewers.
Making sure you have a clean resume so it looks easy to read, straightforward, and then also just highlighting any sort of relevant experience, even if it's like for the company. Like I think for my first job, I included a lot of like high school experience like in healthcare, because my first work learned was in the healthcare space. So trying to bring that into the company and like showing that you're interested in like their space can be really good.
For me, I think for my first internship, my projects were not really that great. I had maybe like 3 projects, and like 2 of them were just like basic like HTML, CSS, JavaScript stuff. Third one was like a React project that I threw together really quick, but yeah, really nothing impressive. And then kind of after my first internship, most of the focus was on kind of like my previous job experience anyway, so I guess I never really built, in my opinion, like really great projects. But kind of advice I have for building projects is, I think build something you're passionate about, because it's going to be like a good product at the end, and use technologies that other people wouldn't probably. I would stay away from like the classic like Byrne stack that you see a lot online, just like simple React projects. Probably stay away from those. Maybe do something interesting that you think other people wouldn't do, and I think that'll be a lot more interesting to talk about.
I think so. Throughout my degree, I did 2 hackathons and then 1 datathon. So for the hackathons, honestly, my projects were like, they were really simple. They were not that great, but it's just like a little bit of a talking point, especially in interviews when they ask you like, tell me about a time when you ever used this or you learned something new. It's just something to speak on. It doesn't have to be amazing, but just like going through that experience is really helpful. Also really fun just to have those memories, staying up like 24 hours with friends. For Datathon, it definitely helped me for my role because you do a lot of like presentations and you're working with data. So for my role specifically, I'm in like the data space, so it definitely really helps with getting experience and being able to tell like interviewers that you've worked with data, you've presented in front of people.
I would recommend having at least 1 full stack project and maybe have 1 hackathon project, because it can show that you're involved outside of like school too. If you're looking for hackathons, NW+, we host 3 hackathons every year. Hack Camp for beginners, NW Hacks, and also Command F for underrepresented genders.
Yeah, I was involved with a couple of clubs. I was part of SUS for a year. I've been part of the Women in Data Science Club for the past 2 years, and then volunteering here and there for things like Wix, as well as like Agora Cafe. It's really good opportunity to be able to speak on for like behaviorals. For example, at Amazon, like they have a lot of things they look for. One of the things is like they have like leadership principles, which are basically like characteristics they look for in employees. And those extracurricular experiences really gave me like opportunity to kind of speak on and like provide examples for that interview process. Actually, a lot of people fail the interview because they don't have leadership principles that they can demonstrate.
To make the most out of your club experience, I would definitely recommend going to socials. Try to get close with everyone in your club so that when you are job hunting and when they graduated and are at like a really big company, you can reach out to them and be like, oh hey, I'm looking for internships right now, do you think you can refer me? Because it's much easier to get a referral from someone that you have worked with and know personally than from a complete stranger on LinkedIn. If there is a club you are interested in, attend their events, get to know some of their organizers and executives so that when you are applying to that club, it might be easier because you can talk about like the events you've been to, why you really want to join that club, why you want to give back, and how the club resonates with you.
That's a real challenge, honestly. I think one person told me like just you're gonna be working for like 30, 40 years, so you have like a lifetime of corporate work ahead of you. So you can get there eventually, and like as you kind of work, you'll also like learn what your dream company really is. And honestly, think about it, at the end of the day, we're all just working at an office in front of a screen. It's just work.
I think like a little bit. I think before going to tech, I feel like a lot of people have like this preconceived notion that like maybe like CS is all about the grind. I don't want to use the term, but like nerdy and stuff like that. But once you get to industry, there's a lot of cool people and people have a life outside of work.
I was actually pretty surprised like how open everyone was about helping you. When I first started, I thought I needed to know everything, but I was actually really surprised when all my mentors and team leads were very open and helpful with mentorship, pair programming sessions, etc.
My best piece of advice would be definitely continue to look for experiences like constantly. So whether it's going to conferences, participating in like hackathons, datathons, joining clubs in your field of interest, just always look for opportunities to continue to like learn and grow, and you'll find that you'll be able to learn more about like different types of roles, the field itself, and just connect with people in like the working space and find opportunities that way. So even if you have your first internship, like don't stop, like continue to always challenge yourself, try new things, and just have fun, especially if you're still in university. It's only a couple of years, so enjoy it while you can.
I would definitely recommend just applying, even if you think you're not good enough, even if you don't think you have a great resume. Just apply because you never know what will happen, and you can always get your resume touched up by like reaching out to people for resume reviews. There's like tons of great resources out there. You can also reach out to like people on LinkedIn for a resume review. There's like tons of Discord servers out there. I think Tech Career North or the CSSS, they have a Discord server where you can just post your resume in and people will just like roast your resume. And I think that will help you with job search. Networking can also be pretty useful. Joining school clubs to meet people. I think attending hackathons too.
I think it really is tough to get your kind of foot in the door, but I would keep just coding, keep networking. All it really takes is one interview, right? I only had 2 interviews, if you think about it, one in first year, one in second year, and just kind of catching those opportunities when they come, I think is important, but just keep going at it. I think the opportunity will come.